Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today in this video I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to make this beautiful underbust corset for yourself. So if you're interested, please keep on watching. So these are the materials we're going to be using to make this top. So I have this tiny African prints left of the last tutorial I made. I have about half yard of this. Half yard is just enough for this. Then I have my black lining, and then I have this white here, which is my stay. And lastly, I have my bias tape. So we're going to go ahead now and draft the pattern for this top. So guys, I have my pattern paper. This is what I'm going to be using to draft the pattern. So in one of the old videos that I made, someone made a comment that she doesn't like patterns because she does not have pattern paper readily available in the place where she lives. Now, you don't necessarily need to draft patterns on a pattern paper. You can use a cardboard paper if that is what you have around you. You can use a calendar. You can use newspapers. Like, you don't necessarily need to have a pattern paper. So I just wanted to put this out there for you guys that are always discouraged when you see me using pattern paper. You can use any other form of paper. It doesn't necessarily matter. So guys, to start off this measurement, I'm going to take this area as the shoulder and then this part as the center front. So from this shoulder here, I'm going to take a measurement from my shoulder down to the middle of my bust, which is my bust point, and that is 10 inches. Then 13 inches, which is my under bust, and then I'll mark also 16 inches, which is my waistline. So I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler now to make these straight lines across. So let's remember, this is our bust line, this is our under bust line, and then this is our waistline. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to come to the shoulder area here. So I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement by 2, and that gave me 7 inches, and then come down by 1 inch, just like you see me doing like this. And then you're going to make a slant into the neck area. Then from that point, I'm just coming up from the bust line by 2 inches, and I'm just making a straight line down like this to just get an armhole. I will just also mark it across as well. I don't really need an armhole for this, but this is just like a guide for the tutorial so that you understand what parts we are working on. So now we're going to come over to this bust line here, and you're going to divide your nipple to nipple measurement by 2 and make a point there. Come down to the underbust, do the same thing, and also on the waistline you're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to connect these 3 points now with my ruler. So now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is to take the measurement from this point on the bust line to the one on the under bust line. So what I have there is 3 inches. So from this middle line, I'll mark 3 inches to this side, and then 3 inches to this other side. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So next, from this point here, you're going to come down by 1 inch, and then on the waistline you're going to go in and out of the line by half of an inch on both sides and just connect it to get your dart. So now the next thing we're going to do is from this point here, we're going to make a curve to meet this point here. If you do not understand what I'm saying, look at what I'm doing. So can you see the points I connected? Then on the other side as well, I'll connect this point to the one on the other bust. So this is what we have here. So we're not drawing a full circle because we're not going to be making use of the cup. So now the next thing I'm going to do is on this bust line here, I'm going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4 here, and then add 1.5 inch for stitching allowance. And on the waistline, mark my waist measurement divided by 4, replace that 1 inch dart intake, and then put the general 1.5 inch stitching allowance, and then just join the points together like this. So now we're just going to go ahead and cut out this pattern, and I would like you guys to look carefully at every part that I'm cutting so that you know where exactly to cut on your pattern paper. So guys, these are the parts of the front that we're going to be using to make this. These are the only parts we'll be needing. So now to get the back, I'm just going to bring in another piece of paper, and we're just going to use the front to draft out the back pieces. So as you can see, I'm just going to first of all mark a line across, and that line is going to be, I'm going to mark it in by 1.5 inch for zipper allowance. That's if you want to have zipper allowance at the back of your underbust corset. For this one, I didn't make use of the zipper allowance though, but I'll be drafting it this way so that if you want to use zipper allowance, you know exactly how to do it. So the center front of your pattern, you're going to put it on that straight line that we have from the zipper allowance. And as you can see, you're just going to secure it in place and pin it down. And before you place the other side of it, you're going to take that 1 inch dart intake that we took, just separate them by 1 inch and just go ahead and pin it down as well, just like you see me doing like this. So now the next thing you want to go ahead and do is to just mark a straight line under here. Just trace it out and also trace out the side. And then just a little bit of the top area. So now just go ahead and make dots here so that I know exactly where my dart is going to be. So guys, from this half point up here, I'm just slanting my ruler in and I'm just going down like this, just a little bit slanted like this. And this is basically all for the back actually. So now I'm just going to get the middle of these points I have here, these 2 points. So I'll get the middle and I will just draw a straight line from that middle all the way to the top, and then make slant lines from the other 2 dots, just like the normal way you will get your dart. So this is basically all for the back pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead now and cut it out. So guys, these are our 2 back pieces as you can see, and then up here we have the 2 front pieces. So one thing I want to quickly say here is because we're going to be making use of loop for the back, so this center part of the back that has the zipper allowance, I'm just going to remove it so that we just make use of only this part of it. So the remaining part of the back is going to have loop. So I'm just going to go ahead now and use these to cut out on my actual fabric. And as you can see, while cutting on my actual fabric, I'm giving it about half of an inch stitching allowance around, just like you see me doing like this. So when you're cutting these out, ensure that you have your fabric folded into 2. And as you can see, I'm not cutting exactly close to my pattern paper. I went ahead to leave about half of an inch stitching allowance away from the pattern paper because you'll be needing stitching allowance to stitch this around. So the only place I didn't add stitching allowance to was the top area. So these are all the patterns we'll be needing. So guys, this is what we have. You remember that the center front was cut in a fold. These are the 3 pieces for the front, and I've also gone ahead to iron my air stay to all the pieces, and these 2 right here are the back pieces. So this center is going to be covered with our loop. So for the lining as well, I went ahead to cut it out and also went ahead to iron in my air stay. This is just to give it strength, but if you do not have air stay, just go ahead and use what you have. So the next thing I'm going ahead to do now is to pin my side part of the front to the center front like this, and I'm just going to do the same thing for this other side as well. So now I'll go ahead and stitch it down. After I was done with that, I went ahead to iron it out, and this is what we have. You can see it's looking all neat and nice. So now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is to join the 2 back pieces to this. So I'm just placing it right sides facing each other like this, and I'm just going to quickly first of all hold it in with my pin so that it stays exactly where it's supposed to stay. And then remember that I gave this pattern when I was cutting 1.5 inch stitching allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch these sides here with that 1.5 inch. So after I was done, this is what I have. So now I can cut away the excess allowances, just like you see me doing like this. So now this is the front and the back pieces all joined together. What I have here, I'm going to go ahead and do exactly the same thing on my lining piece. So after I was done doing the same thing on my lining piece, this is what we have. I went ahead to press everything open. Now the next thing I want to do is to get my boning casing. So guys, I cannot stress this particular one enough. When you're making a corset or anything related to corset, you're going to need your boning, and for this particular one you cannot do without boning, so ensure that you have your boning. So the next thing I'm going ahead to do now is this center front. I'm just going ahead to mark the middle of this point here, and I'm just going to go straight down with my ruler like this. So when you're through with that, I'm going to place a bias here for my boning to pass through. So I'm just going ahead to pin it down. And then the next place I'm going to put my boning will be on this point where I joined the sides together here. So I'll place a boning here as well and cut it out. And on this side here, this side joining, I'm also going to place a boning and just pin it down as well. And I'll do the same thing for the other parts as well. All the joining, all the place where there are joinings, just go ahead and place your boning casing. So now we're going to create another channel for the back. So from the end of the back, we're going to come in by 1 inch here at the top and then 1 inch here at the end. And I'm just going to connect those two lines, points together with a line. So I'm going to be placing a boning there, and also I'll do the same thing for this other side as well. So I'll just go ahead and also place my bias on these lines and just pin it down. So guys, if you don't want your bias to show in front of your fabric like this, you can go ahead and place it at the back, but just ensure that you're putting it in all the same points that I did in front. So now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is to go ahead and stitch this down with my sewing machine. And then we're going to go ahead and place our boning through the casing. So the one I have here is a plastic boning. You can also go ahead and use a Regine boning if you have that. So I'm just going to measure on the line I have here and cut it out. I'm going to make sure that what I have cut out is like 1 inch shorter than where I'm going to be placing it. So you're going to have like half an inch for the top and half an inch for the end. I don't know if you understand. So you're going to be having spaces at the top and at the end. Make sure that your boning that you're cutting out is not exactly the same length as the casing that you're going to pass it through. I hope you understand that part. So I've had people complain that when they are placing their boning that is bent. You can see that mine is not actually standing straight as well. Your boning will always bend. The only thing that is going to make it stand straight is if you go ahead and iron it out. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and iron this out. And as you can see, after I was done, this is what it looks like. Everything is looking straight. So now it's time to join the lining to the actual piece. So I'm just going ahead to pin the lining and the actual piece together, just like you see me doing like this. So when you're through pinning it down, you're just going to go ahead and stitch it all the way around by half of an inch. This is why I told you that your boning should not be exactly the same length, or else it's going to break your needle. So I'm just going to go ahead now and make notches around. As you can see, I've stitched it together. So I'm just going to make notches around so that it will be easy for me to turn it to the right side. So because we've already placed our boning, it's going to be a little bit hard when you're trying to turn it over. Just take your time, ensure that everything comes out neatly, and just go ahead and iron it out. So after I was done ironing, I went ahead to cut out this plastic boning with the length I have here. So you can see I'm going to place it in. If you don't want to use your plastic boning, you can go ahead to use your bra bone. Whatever you want to use is totally up to you. This is your bra bone, so you can go ahead and place your bra bone in from the inside like this. This is also to give you strength, but for this particular one, I'm going to be making use of my boning. So now to place the boning in, as you can see, ensure that it's the same length as the curve you have here. Go ahead and bond the edges so that it doesn't affect you and start disturbing you where you put it on. So now we're going to place it from the inside, in between the actual fabric and the lining, and you're just going to place it here like this. Ensure that it gets to the tip of this half circle here. Can you see? Ensure that it's going to be very hard. It's not as easy as it looks right now. So just ensure that you're placing it in, and when you're through, you're going to go over to the sewing machine and sew very closely to it so it's sealed and secured into that spot there. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. So that's what I'm doing right now on the sewing machine, and as you can see, it's going to be very hard. Like I said, it's not going to just curve like that, but you're going to have to do it by yourself as you're sewing it together. So guys, this is what the cup area looks like after I was done. Can you see how it's standing really nice, and look at the back looking nice as well? So the next thing I want to go ahead and do now is to seal up the ends, and this is another very hard part that you have to just squeeze your face and do, because this is going to make it look really nice, but it's not going to be very easy to do because of the bonings that we have already placed. So you're going to sandwich the other parts of the fabric in, just like you see me doing like this, and you're going to bring the lining and the actual fabric right sides facing each other, and you're going to head over to the sewing machine and stitch it down on this side. Just ensure that everything is inside and you're stitching down only the lining and the actual fabric together, just the ends, like this. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and stitch it down. So this is what I mean. After I was done stitching it down, this is what it looks like. So now this is another hard part, turning it to the right side. Take your time, take your time, take your time. Just go ahead and turn it to the right side, and when you're through, you're going to see how nicely it will come out. So guys, can you see how it's looking after I was done turning it to the right side? So if you flip it over to the back, can you see how neat it is? This is like the only way I know that I will be able to do this and it will come out really neatly. So I've gone ahead to iron it out, and now this part here, we're just going to go in again and iron it folded in like this, just like you see me folding it like this. I'm going to head over and iron it out folded like this, and I will do it for this part and then the other part as well. And when I'm through doing that, I'm going to fold in my bias tape like this into two and stitch it down with the sewing machine. So this is what we're going to be using to lace the back. So after I was done ironing it out, this is what it looks like. Can you see? Looking nice on that part. And like I said, I've gone ahead to fold this part in, and I cut out some of those folded pieces. I cut out 6 of it, and each one of them is 1.5 inch long. So I'm just going to fold it in like this and place it into this part that I folded in here at the top. I'm placing one at the top, and I'm just going to pin it in place here. I'll fold in another one as well, place it at the bottom here, and go ahead and pin it down as well. And lastly, I'm going to mark the middle of this part here. Just go ahead and mark the middle. Dividing my tape, that's like the easiest way you can get the middle of whatever you're measuring. I made a point there, and I'm just going to fold in my loop again and just place it there. So I have 3 on this side. So I'm going to head over and stitch it down with my sewing machine, and I will do the same thing for this side as well. So guys, after I was done stitching it down, this is what it looks like on both sides, and that's basically all for the sewing of this top. Now I'm just going to go ahead and lace it up with this bias that I made earlier. So guys, this is basically all for the making of this really cute underbust corset top, and you can wear it in several different ways, trust me. So you can see how I've styled it with a top here and also with this dress. So let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed this tutorial. Like, share and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.